Hello. Welcome to the closing event of the Supervisory Board Readiness Program, or better to say, welcome to the end of the Old Boys Club. Dear participants, you might be exhausted by now, having gone through this very tough program. Now you can lean back because the tests are made, and now we let the experts do the talking, and we have quite a number of experts here that you probably all know by yourself. We have Claudia Nemat here, we have Viviane here, Jörg Rocholl, and Angelika Huber-Straßer. But before, I will actually present them later on again. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dörte Eickelberg. I am a host for Arte, and having hosted about like 600 or 700 science shows, I could say that by now I have a vague and superficial understanding of science. I have no understanding of management and economy. But fortunately, I'm here to ask the questions and not to give any answers to you. So, talking about questions and answers, why don't we, welcome here first the sponsor of this whole program, whose finalization we are celebrating today. So please welcome Claudia Nemat, the Member of Management Board of the Deutsche Telekom.
So thank you very much, Dörte, and I would like to say a very warm welcome and great afternoon for all the participants, and thanks Viviane for coming here, thanks Angelika and Jörg Rocholl for being here with us. It's a great honor. I must say I'm actually very proud of this program, and I'm very proud of you, dear participants. I think we are in violent agreement that diversity is super important. Viviane and I, we discussed this morning talking about Greece, that we live in a very complex, volatile world with an increasing number of crises. And I believe these type of crises, as well as the challenges we have in management teams, can only be addressed meaningfully if we have teams with people who are different from each other. Different in their experience background, different in age, different in gender, different from cultural background, maybe even different in personality. And then, if you have a team leader who can manage such a diversity, we really end up having better results. And therefore, for those who know me, I'm a great believer in diversity as a driver for change for the better. In businesses, but also in politics, probably, and in society. Now, for this program, the DT, Deutsche Telekom Board Area Europe, and Technology took the lead, and together with Group HR, we developed that Supervisory Board Readiness Program, and it is actually meant to educate people for supervisory board roles in our international subsidiaries. So, and I'm hearing you got a lot of inspiration out of that. And we chose 29 female leaders. There are 5 already serving on boards and 2 now being nominated. And be ensured, even though not everything can happen immediately, we have now a great talent pool and a source of inspiration for us here in the management board and for my male colleagues. So therefore, I'm very happy, and I really hope that you are using also this opportunity for fantastic networking. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. So, and as you know, the education of this program has been executed by the ESMT and the landlord, so to say, sitting here as a, can you say that, the rooster among the hens? I'm not sure. Der Hahn im Korb. So being, the host of that program, maybe you want to say a few words to us as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in particular, congratulations to you on the hard work, the dedication that you contributed to the program. I think it's still too early to congratulate you on having succeeded in it, but we'll see. So we will see what is going to come out of this. I would like to say this is a program that is it's in our heart for two very important reasons. One is Deutsche Telekom is a founder of ESMT. Deutsche Telekom has been a long-term partner to ESMT, has a chair here, has worked very closely with ESMT. We are very pleased about this great cooperation we have with Deutsche Telekom, so therefore we are in particular pleased also to offer this program. And this brings me to my second point. This is a very important program because it deals, and Claudia Nemat has pointed this out, deals with a very important topic that is what ESMT stands for, diversity. We are a very international place. We have students from all over the world. We have faculty members from 18 different countries who are represented here. We have not yet reached 50% of students or faculty members to be female, but at least we are far above the average, what you would call the industry average of business schools, and we try to do everything to work on this even more. We were we liked very much and supported very much the idea that then Commissioner Viviane Reding started to what you could call boardable women, to nominate those whom we think could actually become board members at some point, to allow them for specific training, to actually make them better known, to make them publicly known in their qualities and their abilities to become board members. And we do a number of other things. We have special discounts for and special scholarships for women who would like to go to our high flag or flagship general management programs. And of course, we are very happy to be partnering with Deutsche Telekom in this program. And as I could just see from the reaction of the media, but maybe what is even more important, by the reaction of the male colleagues, it seems to be a good success. And so, so therefore, again, a warm welcome. I'm very pleased to be host here, and we look very much forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Jörg. And well, it's a well-known fact that it's hard for women to actually get far in their career for many reasons. One of them is because it's lacking female role models. So now we have two, or three actually, sitting here. One has already spoken to you now. I'd like to also welcome Angelika Huber-Straßer, who is the managing partner of the KPMG, as you probably all know. And of course, a person you all very well know, Viviane Reding, member of the European Parliament and former Vice President of the European Commission. And I have a question to all of you, and I'd like to start with you, Mrs. Reding, if I may. So, since that is the headline of this discussion right now, the end of the old boys club, why, in your opinion, does it have to come to an end?
Because it doesn't make sense, neither from the point of view of the environment, nor from the point of view of the society, nor from the point of view of the economy. Because it's very conservative, and it reproduces the same models. And reproducing the same models means making a lot of mistakes. You always need fresh ideas, you need fresh blood, and as it has just been said, the diversity also of the characters of the nationalities and men and women together make the difference. So there have been plenty of studies which have shown that companies which are managed by a diverse team make a much better income. They have a very much better return. And of course, it is the fact that you change is aggressive. Change is always threatening the very well-established models, and that makes it so difficult. And that is why there are walls all around the models which have been built so that to have a quietness, things are as they are. Don't disturb us, please. Now, in the future world, if there is no disturbance, there is no progress. And this disturbance alone, by the fact that women bring their difference, their questions, their different life models, makes a very big change. Besides, 60% of the university graduates are females. and this talent is lost. Can we afford that in an aging society where we are desperately looking for talent? So having women on board simply makes sense. It is logical and it is economically worthwhile.
Okay.
So we have to do it. And that is why we needed to break through, because we saw that by just putting the analysis on the table, that was not enough. Nothing moved. And that is also the reason why in 2010 I put on the table of the European Union this procedural quota initiative. Wow, at that proposal, a storm, a tsunami. It was awful because it was aggressive. It meant, look, competition is coming in. And, well, the proof, here the competition is sitting. And it's good that this initiative has been taken because in the end, it is about competence, it's about talent, and about the will to succeed. And this is also female.
Yes. So the board rooms need to represent the society, and therefore it needs to be equalized. And I can imagine that that doesn't only count for the balance of the sexes, but in general, right? There needs to be more diversity in the boardrooms. Correct? Yes, okay, hard, not in, but let's get back to the female percentage in the boardrooms. You've told me before you are the person of numbers. So can you present us some facts, Frau Huber-Straßer? Like, where are we right now, and where do we want to be in the future when it comes to, numbers of women in the boardrooms?
Regarding numbers in the boardrooms at the moment in the DAX 30. I think we're on a good way, and we improved quite a lot from in the past. Now we are at 24%. We're talking about 250 mandates within the DAX 30, and at the moment there are only 20 chairs not used by women. So we only need another 20 women in the supervisory board of the DAX 30 to have the 30% percentage, or which is the quota now from the law. So I think they are on a very, very good way. Where we are very naked is on the real boards of the DAX 30. There we actually had a little height in the year 2010 to 12, and now it decreased again, and we are talking about around 8%. So Mrs. Nemat is quite lonely there in the boards. So I think, and this is the real challenge we are facing. I think the companies won't have a big problem to fill in this last 20 women into the DAX 30 supervisory boards, but there is the big challenge is the boards of the big corporate companies and the 2 levels below. And I think this is where we really have to see the difference, because I think that the cultural change will not come from the boards, not bringing 30% women in the supervisory boards. The real change for the society and for the companies, we will only see if we have more than 30% women in the boards and in these 2 levels below the board.
Mm-hmm. And the Telekom has already begun to change that. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that,
yes,
Nemat?
We introduced the quota in 2010, and as a result of this, we now have on average 25% women in leadership positions overall. And our target is to get at least 30%. In the executive board, though, I'm still, as of today, the only one. Yeah. Okay. But I think, and you rightfully said it, so I think the real cultural change comes from filling the levels 3 to 1 below the board and creating a true pipeline of female leaders who then can step up from that, yeah, because you don't go into an executive board just like, yeah, so you have to have a fantastic track record, and we need to really have the pipeline. And I think the biggest topic we need to work on is helping middle managers overcome what I call the perception bias. because any group of people which are very much alike, for example, all male, all German, all having worked in their functional silos for years, they tend to like people like themselves and add to themselves people who are like themselves. They don't do it on purpose because they want to discriminate. It's just the human herd, avenue. So that's a human nature. By the way, women would do equally so. That's not a specific phenomenon of men. It's just that right now it's predominantly men. So therefore, I believe, instead of training women to be wumps and act like men, we need to kill the perception bias and train middle managers of all kinds to understand how the perception bias works. In addition to filling up the talent pipeline and getting then naturally more female leaders going up.
That's an interesting point. We should get back to that in a minute. But before, I would like to ask the person who is in the minority here right now. Now you know how it feels like. Does that sometimes make you a little bit nervous when when all of a sudden there's a big corporate coming up like, oh, we'd like to train 29 women to take on the position in the supervisory boards? Do you think like, whoa, why that effort? They could as well offer that to men.
Or maybe they will do, right? So this is no, but not at all. I think when you take together this initiative, this program here, and take it together with the initiative that you started, I think this was in 2011 or 12.
Was the business schools?
The business schools, right? Yeah. So basically, business schools suggesting those out of their graduates whom they think of as very highly and think as potential board members going forward. And so, from my recollection, there were very few institutions in Germany. Maybe we were the only one actually that contributed to this. We have fantastic. We have fantastic graduates, but in particular, we also have fantastic female graduates. So it was very natural for us to say, here are fantastic graduates. We should do everything to actually promote them, to help them in everything that comes. And maybe I'll just use a slightly different word. I wouldn't, maybe in my word, pipeline would be, or I would just call it the pool. Yeah. So there should be a sufficiently large pool of those who finally can make it then to the top level. And the task I see for us as a business school is first to identify those, and then once we have identified them, to help them go through programs like this to actually prepare them for this step. What is really surprising is the fact that you see, I think you mentioned 60% of the graduates from university to be female, and then seeing kind of a pyramid going to the top. And this is where many stakeholders have to contribute. But in particular, also the business schools have to contribute, and this is basically reflected in both your initiatives.
May I just give the latest figures on this initiative?
Oh, great.
Because it were actually I was speaking with some people from business schools, and I told them, so what about your women in MBA? Oh, they said, no problem. We don't have many, but those which we have are very good. I say, so, yeah. And so what is happening with them after the MBA? They say, okay, we come back to you 3 weeks later, but we don't think so that there is a problem. Well, they came back to me 3 weeks later and they were very upset. Because the women were doing the best MBAs and the men were getting the best positions after the MBAs. And so it started, this initiative of the business schools by themselves saying we are losing out our talent. And they created this board-ready women initiative. It was first, you are right, it was first the French business schools and the British business schools. And then the others came also. It has become a global initiative now with 111 countries on board. 8,000 CVs guaranteed by the business schools worldwide, and a real pooling of talent. So you see, it was an initiative of a politician to ask of a female politician to ask the right questions. But it was then done by the civil society. And I do believe, and that is why also I think it's so important, Claudia, that you have done now this pilot project in order to fill a real gap and to get this talent to flourish. And we need that at different levels so that we do not spoil, leave it idle, that talent anymore, because it is a real waste when you educate people, when families, women put so many effort in during decades and then lost. I mean, that is not what we need, and that is why we have to combine our forces in order to go ahead on this. And yes, if I look at the European figures, when I started in 2010, with my proposal for quotas, there were very few countries who moved. There were some countries who made laws, and there the progress was enormous. In France, in the last 4 years, 20% more on boards, on supervisor. I'm speaking about supervisory boards. In Italy, Quote Rose, 19% more in 4 years. In Belgium, also a law, 12% more. And in Germany, without law, but with a lot of discussion and fight, everybody knew about, everybody was moving, also 12% without law. So you can imagine now that you have the law that things will go very much further. So I am not so much worried on the executive boards. But in top management, that is an absolute male-dominated world. 5% of women around. In Germany, CEOs, 0%, at the level of CEOs. So there we have to work. But I do also believe, I believe in positive examples, in models. You see, because when a young woman, and you spoke very rightly about the middle management. That is normally when the young women start to have real problems in their families, in their job, and so on and so forth. And then they look up and they see there is a space without women. Instead of saying, great, I will be the first, they say, I will be alone. And then they go a step back and they say, it's not worth fighting now. And that is where we are losing them. So we have to work on the board level, but we have also to work at the middle management level. So the next experience you will do will be in middle management, you see.
So, Mrs. Redding, you just spoke about the legislation chance that will will be active from September 30th onwards, and well, as we know with this program, you guys are a little bit ahead of the times, which is good. Do you see, having fought for this for such a long time at the European Parliament, do you see any chances that this will actually get more followers throughout Europe, the other countries?
My directive is still blocked at the level of the Council. The Parliament voted for it with an overwhelming majority across all political parties. In the Council, I think that Germany has a trigger. If Germany gives up its opposition to the European legislation, then it will be done. If Germany is still standing on the brake, it won't be done. There will be a blocking minority.
So Germany has an important factor here and is being observed quite closely by the neighboring countries.
Yeah, well, Germany has a problem. Huh? Germany has a problem with women. There are many reasons why this is so. It's a historical development. So alone the fact that now there is a German law, I think it is a miracle already. And I hope that this will trigger a lot of move. But the German law came because of political pressure in Germany. The European level is far away for many, and they don't see it as as concretely. And that is why the pressure there is much more difficult. The pressure on the Council of Ministers is difficult. The pressure in the Parliament is easy. And that is also why the parliamentarians who represent the citizens, they have voted dramatically. It was a landslide vote, so across all parties. Also the Conservative parties, also the Liberal parties, they all voted for it. At the level of a country, it's much more difficult to get ministers to move.
What I find interesting so far, everybody of you has remarked severe problems why there is this lack of women in the management and in the supervisory boards. So can you maybe specify that a little bit? Like what is the possible reason for it, apart from maybe the need for programs like this one? Do you want to start?
So one I mentioned already, it's indeed perception bias.
Yes.
Yeah, because people like themselves, teams like themselves. Second one is lack of pools and visibility of people. And I think therefore actually requesting when promoting people that at least there's a fair share of both genders in the pool and then the best may win has already a tremendous impact. There is a third thing which is also, I have to say, somewhat complicated for management positions. Because still, if you look at the share of women who do MINT, mathematics, IT, engineering, natural sciences, frankly, what we really need, also at Deutsche Telekom and in many other German industrial companies, there are still fewer women than men, especially in IT. And that, so therefore, I would also encourage always like younger kids and girls to engage in these subjects. So there's an issue with the pool at the very beginning. And then, and Viviane, you were highlighting to that, in Germany there is a very specific cultural problem, which is unique to Germany, and that has to do with the idea of kids' upbringing and the concept of the Rabenmutter, which doesn't exist literally elsewhere. And I believe that this goes back to the Nazis, because in the generation after war we miss in Germany 1 or 2 generations, yeah, who actually got already mentally in the modern age. And so therefore we just lag in that respect behind in the western part of Germany. Now the interesting thing is, looking here, I see many female leaders from my Eastern European national companies. Some of them, when talking, for example, to people in Croatia, they were really making fun of us. They were saying, Claudia, I really don't understand that debate which you are having. Yeah? Because in Croatia, as a matter of fact, the share of females in management roles is 50%. As is society. So I would say there is a specific topic which needs to be overcome as well in the organization, the mentality of the organization of kids, kindergarten, etc., and the mentality towards that. Yeah, so you won't solve that in a year. So because you have to address all these levers to get the pool bigger.
For Huber-Straßer, do you agree on that?
I absolutely agree. And I would like to add something, which is role models. I think we are missing role models, positive role models. And I think if you look in the German media or in advertisement, there is not a series or a movie about a successful businesswoman. Yeah, it's all over the place. It's only successful men. And if there is one, she's murdered in the Tatort in the first 5 minutes, and she had a problem. But it's never ever there. It's perhaps sometimes there is a very successful lawyer or perhaps some doctor or something. But it's never a businesswoman. It's always, very difficult. And I think we have to change these role models. We need positive role models that the girls in school say, one day I would like to become like she on this movie. I think our role model is Heidi Klum, If you ask the girls who are 14, what would you like to become? They don't say, I would like to become Supervorstand. No, I become, I have a 14-year-old daughter. They're looking this and saying, to become slim, I get, lots of money, I'm looking good, and I get a nice soccer player as a boyfriend. where are, these positive role models? And we call Angela.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all right. And then there's another thing. I would add something on media. Because I think a year ago, a few women left executive board positions. Yeah. By the way, there are many men who leave executive board positions and a lot of men who are just, even in those roles. And the entire debate was around, maybe they couldn't make it. Maybe they didn't figure out. There was a search for systematic failure while they were brought in from outside and couldn't figure out. The tonality was they couldn't figure out. Yeah. So I was asking myself, maybe the tonality should have been figured something out. Yeah. And I think it is also around how we talk about it. I had an interesting discussion with my husband, who is Iranian, super macho. Yeah, so very much so, in a positive sense, yeah. And he said to me, Claudia, are you aware that the boys are talking up themselves and relate to boys in their language? But you know what your problem is? You and your females are doing the same. Many, because how much positively and full of appreciation do then the females talk about then the next female who is coming up. So guys, I think there is something to be learned from the boys. And I hope this network is very valuable to that, which is talk about not yourself, about your colleagues. Look how men are doing this. Yeah? Do that. Be comfortable in doing this and be positive around it and create passion around this. And I think that is part of the thing about how stories are told about women.
And success, and their success.
And their success.
Not only,
if
she's a nice
successful,
girl.
she's close to being a bitch. Yeah?
I'd like to add to that. So we had just, I think a month ago, we had, which was independent of this program, we had an event which we named, well, whether this was creative or not, we can discuss, but we named it Top Frauen, Top Chancen. And we organized it jointly with the Austrian Embassy and the KfW, so the Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau. And one of my female colleagues, actually, who does a lot of research on this, gave a presentation on what her recommendation would be. And I like it, actually, and it fits very well to what you just said. She basically said the following. Women have the tendency to accept more easily the criticism that is given to them than men. So men probably would start arguing, no, that's not quite right, and so on, which by itself is fine, but it creates a reaction then by the person who has given the criticism. The person who has given the criticism may think, so if this person doesn't contradict to what I just said, I must be right. So I should actually even say more. If you feel some resistance and someone saying, well, actually, this might not be quite right, then you may say, well, next time I need to think about it differently. I need to come up with different arguments. So in that sense, I don't want to basically create the appeal to just discuss everything and to start wondering about everything. But this seems to be, at least in this research that my colleague presented, seems to be a very important force.
That reminds me to my parents, where it's also a very classical case when the TV doesn't work. My mother would say, I cannot run this, I don't find the button, I'm too stupid to run the TV. My father would say, TV doesn't function, so we just need to buy a new TV. So it's just just a different perception of problems. But talking of which, I'm wondering now that all of you came so far let's say in a very competitive field. Did you feel the need to adapt to, let's say, male strategies, in terms of networking, of communicating with each other, of being, solidarity you've mentioned before, or do you think no, we should go our own way? So
that is a very difficult question because it has to do, if you ask me how I did in the beginning, well, I was first elected in 1979. I'm 35 years in politics now. Now, that was an absolutely male world, and I was completely alone. So what did I do? I tried to fight it hard. because I couldn't build a network. We are today in a complete different system where you have the other girls around, so you can network. And I think today we have to seize this possibility to really go ahead for networking. And I wanted to say something to you, because you said the role models are missing, and those who arrive on top are the bitch. I started in 1978 as the first ever political journalist in Luxembourg. That is, by the way I was elected, because people knew my signature in the newspaper. The only one around. And all the girls, small girls, said, we want to become a journalist like Viviane Reding. You see how she manages to argue and to put her point. Now, you know what has happened? The journalism has become a complete female profession in Luxembourg, because they all wanted to be like me. But then there was another problem, because if you have a profession which becomes female, then the salaries go down. So if you look at it from a long perspective, and that is why I believe, and I'm persuaded, we do not need to replace an all-male factor by an all-female factor. But really we should network in between women and men. I could never have made my career if there hadn't been men who were my mentors. It wouldn't have been possible at all, but I always had male, well, there were no females around also, but I always had male mentors. And I think that we should not really replace one era by another era. To go now, in order to, well, we have to break up the all-male thing, but we must not replace it by an all-female thing. It is very good to have women speaking together, but it's even better that these women then each speaks out to a man, so that we really get also in the way we are in society, we have our groupings. Why not to go to have a beer with the guys? It's very interesting and informative to have a beer with the guys.
Having a beer yourself or just listening?
Look, well, that is also an old story. When I was in my first election campaign, I had an old guy, a mayor of a neighboring city, told to me, girl, you will never succeed in this job. I have to explain you something. He said, look, that's a glass, okay? And that's a beer, okay? You pull the beer in the glass and you learn to drink 3 without falling down, and then you go for an election campaign. He was so right.
So that's the advice you want to give? No, but which, you know, it's funny that you're bringing that up, because we were talking about that before, about careers being helped by going for a drink after work. Like, is that an advice you would give to the participants here, like to like to socialize more, to mingle with each other, like also beyond the working field? Yeah. Is that where the real career decisions are being made? In the bar at night?
It's very important to get into these male networks, because they are the circles where they decide who's making the career. And I think also to your question before, whether we have to change or becoming male or something, I think all of us have adopted already male patterns to get there. Because if, like you, are in a board, and myself also in a board, only with males, of course you're adapting patterns. And I think we should be honest, yeah, to survive there. Because they have special behavior, how they act. And if you don't, I always compare it with playing football. You know, if you think as a woman, you don't know the rules, and you get onto this playing field where they're playing football. You don't know the rules, you start, you know, acting also with your hands or doing something, and they say, oh my God, look at her, you know, she played against the rules, she took the ball with the hands and something like that. And then you always think, oh, why are not playing with me, or why they're blaming me again or something. I think you should have to know the rules the boys are playing the game. And if you don't know the rules, you're always missing out. So I think it's like also like a language. You have to learn the language they're speaking and how they are behaving. If you don't do, you cannot communicate with them. And I think this is especially in a surrounding like you also are, if they are only male. If they are 30 or 40% women, you have the possibility to change the rules. You can say, you know, now we play also with hands, and they agree. If you're alone there, I think we all have adopted. Perhaps we are not always conscious about it, that we have them adopted, but we have. And I think this is the only way at the moment, if you're such a small minority there, to get into the game. And therefore, it's also important to get to the networks. And also coming back to the start, where you said, you know, you set up this database with, you know, women who are competent and who would be ready. I'm working on a study at the moment regarding, I've asked, together with a colleague, all supervisory board chairmen of the DAX 30, what they think about the quota, how they're going to, you know, handle it, you know, whether they are prepared. And the main issue is all of us, you know, women always think, oh, I make another diploma and I get an MBA and something, and then I'm competent and prepared. This is not the pattern how the boys work. What they are actually looking for, all of them told me, you know, I asked these chairs from supervisory board, how do you get now these women to your boards? And what they said is, I'm looking into my personal networks. This is the first thing. The second is I ask another male friend about his networks, whether he knows somebody who could come into my board. And then they are looking also in their wider network. For example, if they are also on a board of a theater or of an art gallery or whatever, and perhaps there is a female there who also worked already on the board of this non-profit organization, and they think, oh, she performed nicely, she didn't interrupt too much, and she was okay. And then they're going to ask this woman, and only at third place they are thinking about asking a headhunter or going to a database. So my advice for you is, get out there with your diploma now and get to these male networks, get contact with these circles where they actually decide who's coming onto the board. And it's not that they're looking for the best, they are looking for the right women to get into their boards. So I think it's necessary to join these male networks and go for a beer and, talk to them also about football and cars and big tires. And I think, that is how they become a friend of you, and then they are going to recommend you to another board. So it's very important that you get onto your first board, because then a wide range of male board members will see, oh, she's working nicely, she's doing fine, and then you are recommended to the next board.
So here's some good news from research. So the good news from research is the following. So it has been analyzed how board composition by gender actually affects companies in various ways. And there are actually two interesting aspects to this. The first one is female board members have higher attendance rates than male board members. Of course. So they are more diligent. But now comes the part where I would say maybe it's not even necessary just to talk about football, cars, and so on. Because the second argument, the second finding is, the more women there are on the board, the higher is also the attendance rate by the men. So they apparently enjoy very much the fact that they're not just among themselves, but rather have maybe a little bit more variety in the discussion topics they may have. So at least this is what the data suggests for the US, and I'm not sure to what extent this could be actually also found for Germany, but I find it quite interesting. There is apparently an incentive for male board members to attend if there are also more female board members.
Or perhaps they're afraid that they're taking over their job, so you never know.
That would be competition then, but it's good.
I'm not sure what's the issue about it, or the rationale behind.
Yeah. What she says is actually, if you can't beat them, join them. So that is right at every level of society. But I am also convinced that you should not give up being a woman. There is nothing worse than somebody changing personality, changing the essence of the character. I think we working women can be very feminine, and we should stay feminine. We should not become man-like. And we should give up something which is deep inside of us. We are always asking ourselves questions if we are good enough. Yes, we are. Simply because we are much better than all those guys who think they are very good. But then we should also say it. And that is something where we have to adapt because we are not used to go out and say, hey, look, here I am, here I stand, I'm brilliant. We are sitting in a corner and waiting for Prince Charming to come to take us out. There will be no Prince Charming coming to take us out at the top level. We have really to present ourselves. So yes, join them, but yes, be yourself. And yes, you need sometimes to take over their pattern in order to make yourself to be understood.
Yes, and Viviane, I would add there is a specific thing about leaders, true leaders, men or women. And I would say a true leader is always authentic and true to herself or himself. And that is utmost human, has character and intelligence, and can connect with human beings, men or women. And leadership also means that sometimes you should not choose the easiest way. And I'm here talking about leadership, not about the fastest avenue to management career. Yeah? Leadership. And I believe, and I remember a scene I had 10 years ago, then a senior person was saying to me, Claudia, you have the choice. Here's the field. You can decide to play in the field, meaning together with the boys' club, or outside the field. Be outside the field. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do neither nor. I'm going to change the rule of the games and change the boundary rules of the field. So whoever sees this passion in herself, and by the way, I'm not suggesting that every person should sense that. Should men or women, it doesn't matter, should understand the most important thing is to be authentic and true to yourself and pass the mirror test for yourself. And then, of course, it's entirely useful, as you are saying, to understand the language of these networks. Yeah? So like a language, and I would describe it, many very successful senior women, but I have to say also very successful senior men who are wise, have the ability to swim like the sharks in the water, let's say that's the men, and to fly like an eagle in the air. If you can do both disciplines, you are just superior in your leadership behavior. And by the way, this is also true for those men who understand the language, yeah, of the female networks and of international networks and of different cultural networks. I think it's true for everyone. It's the skill set of the leader, I believe, yeah. And I think this is hopefully something I managed to get in the eyes and heart of people, yeah.
So Claudia Nemat, having begun probably as the only woman in the management board, I assume, how did you manage to remain truthful to yourself and authentic? Because that's not that easy for a woman today who has to wear so many hats.
You know, if you ask my male colleagues, some of them would probably say it's not easy for them.
To be authentic?
It's harder to have this woman on the board. A fun aside. So actually we started with 2 women in the board of Deutsche Telekom, but my colleague left. She was responsible for HR. Now, for me personally, a little bit like Viviane in your life, I was only used in my early career to be together with men primarily. I did physics. I was the only female in the Institution of Theoretical Physics. Then I started at McKinsey. I was the only female then and one of the youngest female partners. And this entire thing went like that for a while, yeah, until I discovered, okay, now I need to do something around it and contribute also myself to creating in the environment how I could, a more diverse environment. But I got used to that. For me, that is nothing special, I must say.
And so now what is going to change now, considering the fact that the numbers of women in the supervisory boards will be rising, meaning that you don't have that singular status anymore, which might also be kind of a nice thing to have, the only woman, you're admired for the, and now all of a sudden there are these other women around. Do you think that women also have to change something in their behavior towards each other? Like to support each other instead of fighting, there's a German word for this, Zickenterror.
So I have to say, in my management board, Europe and technology, 30% are women. Yeah, my head of HR is a Croatian woman and my head of technology is a German woman. So I have in my own management teams and in the way I'm trying to lead my board area anyhow, that principle. Because I truly believe in, as I said, the superiority of diversity in any dimension, international and female. I think the cultural change does not come really from women in supervisory board primarily. As you said, Angelika, the cultural change will come when we will have more diversity, gender, international, functional diversity on all management levels. And then one woman doesn't change the culture. Yeah? So there is this old study from McKinsey & Company which showed that you need a critical mass of around 30% of the minority to make a difference. Because that one woman, as you are saying, is very likely to adopt to the patterns of the others around herself to be successful in getting things done. Yeah? So we need a critical mass on all levels, and that will then have for sure cultural change.
So and once this critical mass is achieved, how, like your advice, how should women help each other in order to unite instead of fighting against each other because they have this very special position there in a man's world?
It is true that well, in my career, women never were a help. Never. Never, ever. But I have helped a lot of women to come about. Because I had seen the negative effects of this. Women were always fighting me. In order to push me away, but this is very different when you are alone and you want to maintain your lonely star, unique star, special position. When you have the what Claudia says, the critical mass, and it is counted around 30%, then you can organize completely differently, and you do not have this this pushing, and you can also change the rules. 15 years ago, I established in my party in Luxembourg quotas, 30%. This has majorly changed the party, which until then was ruled by grey, elderly gentlemen. And a woman alone there couldn't do anything to change the rules. But the 30% have made out of this old grey party a young party where women feel at ease. So the 30% in order to change the rules are necessary. And once you have this, then this Zickenkrieg doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore. So, but how you arrive at the 30%, and it is not by chance that we utilized also the 30% in our basic rules. You did it at Deutsche Telekom. We did it in politics, always a 30%, because it is a basis in order to exercise a structural difference. And you are there now, your generation is there now at nearly this 30%. So for you it will be quite different than it was for us when we came in and we were the lone fighters as women. So because you can, with the other women together, change the rules, and because also you have taken up the idea of networking. That was never the case when I came into politics or into job. We were not networking as women. With whom would you network? I was the only one always. So but the fact that now we are more also to have this network and to help each other. And I have seen something that all the young girls I brought into positions, they have learned that they need to bring other young girls in. So this goes by itself now. It wouldn't have been possible 20, 30 years ago. It is now the case, and you have to further develop that. But please, please don't replace these networks. Don't replace the male networks by these networks. Try to have a women's solidarity, but try to mingle with the others.
Would you also give that advice to the participants or students going through the programs here at ESMT? Like, have you also noticed a different networking behavior of the male and the female participants?
It's difficult to say for me, given that certainly they would not like to have me in the network as a so. If the students are there, they rather have their own secrets. I wouldn't have liked my professor to be part of my network. I mean, of course, obviously talking about this in, say, informal terms, but not so about necessarily having beer. But I have actually one more thought on this that just came to my attention. We talked a lot about executive boards, supervisory boards. I'm wondering actually what the statistics are on entrepreneurs. So how actually the, really successful startup entrepreneurs, and I have a certain theory on that, which might be right or wrong, but just like to, let's say, hypothesize. So we said before, men are certainly more overconfident than women. We know this for sure for all kinds of research, which has lots of negative aspects. So for example, in stock market trading, since men are overconfident, they really waste all the money and they still think they are right. So, so this means female investors are better than male investors. Yeah. What I'm wondering, though, whether this overconfidence for some lucky can actually be very positive in the sense that if you want to create a company, and even if you think I'm completely playing against the odds, if I'm overconfident, I would still go for the effort, I would try to do it, I would try it, and eventually I become extremely successful. These are the role models we always look at in successful entrepreneurs. If you're less overconfident, you may say, actually, I should also take the risks into account. Therefore, maybe I will not start this endeavor. So this is something that I would like to. I haven't analyzed, but I would be.
There is evidence to that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
There is evidence. So first, the Silicon Valley tech community is, with few extensions, the next male religion of the world.
Right.
The digital revolution of the world is driven by people with strong confidence, wanting to shape the consumers globally, absolutely relentless and like this. That's the next thing. So that's this. And then there is research which shows the following. If you have a business plan for a startup, and you use the same business plan with a man who is representing that and a female who is representing that, the man with the plan is likely to get a significant higher proportion of money for that.
Even they are more successful to get the money at all. They used actually actors, and they said the same words to the venture capitalist.
Right.
So it was male and female, and I think in 30% the women got the money, and in 60% the male got the money from the venture capitalist. So there is a lot of bias also in the head of the venture capitalists. Even, like you said, numbers show that female founders, even in the Silicon Valley, they have a higher success rate and they produce more profit than the male startups. And it shows bias again, what we mentioned before. So this is a big issue.
Apart now from Silicon Valley, if you look at Asia, if you look at these new countries, also in Europe, you have many more women entrepreneurs. Why? Because you do not have this century-old conservative patterns. There are new societies. Everything is new, and there women have a much bigger chance than in old societies where the patterns are so rigid that you have a difficulty to break through this pattern. So if you look at the figures in Asia, I think that women are doing the job of entrepreneurship in this moment. Interestingly, in big companies here in Europe, Central Europe, women are having difficulties. In SMEs, women are starting very often also to take over the company from the father, who would like to have given it to the son, but the son doesn't want or is not capable. These women are normally absolutely success stories. Very much so. So you see this difference between a big companies, big structures, Deutsche Telekom and others alike, and the what we call the backbone of our economy, the small and medium-sized businesses in our places, and then all kind of companies in new world societies where the establishment is not yet so strong as it is in our places.
So, good moment, I think, to have like a few advice lines for from each of you. Like, you've given lots of good advice already, but maybe you just want to take this last round as an opportunity to address your advice specifically to the participants before we end our panel. Shall we start with you, Frau Nemat?
Okay, so repeat what I said. I think important thing is be authentic. Really be authentic and passionate, and leverage whatever network you created here and networks you have, to have fun, to be inspired, to have a peer with whom you can share problems, and somehow help to promote yourselves. And I would have a wish from DT perspective, please, for the DT people here, help me to change the culture of this company.
If you have an idea, don't think it's crazy, but think the only thing which is not crazy is the craze of your idea. And just go for it. And if there are difficulties, and there are going to be many, just overcome them and just go for it. And if you are mothers, never ever have a bad conscience. Go for it.
So obviously it's getting harder and harder to find still. Let me just say, I would say, first of all, act with confidence. Act with confidence in your qualities. You have all the great qualities with you, and just try to let them work. And if ever in doubt, you can always come back to us, and we will actually, and we have lots of more programs in certain fields.
Yeah, it's now very difficult. I would suggest that you help each other and strengthen each other when you are in doubt or in trouble. You know, go back to your peers and help them. And always have 2 CVs from a female colleague in your handbag. So if a job is offered to you, supervisory board or whatever job, and then you say, no, I'm not taking it, place the other 2 or 3 CVs on the table and says, but I know at least 3 women who could do the job, because it will strengthen all of us and it will give the transparency, because a lot of time against the quota people always say, oh, we don't know somebody. If you place the CV on the table, they can't say, we don't know anyone. And I would also like to follow you. Never feel guilty. I think this is what we often have, that we feel guilty. You know, we are not doing the job properly, are not competent, we are guilty to our children, and there is hope. Yesterday, Harvard Management School sent out a study, and they say that the daughters of working women are more successful than from not working women, and their sons, which I think is also really good, are more caring. So there is hope.
Thank you very much. very much. That was a very inspiring talk. I could have gone forever, but I think now it's time to make room for at least 2 representatives of the participants of that program, just to ask them a quick question about how it went. Thank you very much. Here's your applause, and I hope you'll find a seat over there. Thank you.